Yo, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Thank Growth. It's Friday. Thank you guys for being here. May the 24th be with you. How's everybody doing? Carlin, how are you? You look
Dude,
like a
I'm
ball
great.
of fucking sunshine, man. You look great.
Thank you.
You could definitely, if I was to look at you, if I was going to see you, like if we were in Walmart or something, and I had no idea what day it was, like if we were in the middle, like we've been watching a lot of like Walking Dead at my house. So if there was
we've
a
been on
zombie
Supernatural.
apocalypse, like, and I saw you in Walmart, I'd be like, you know what, Carlin, the way that she looks, I bet it's a Friday. She's just glowing today.
Definitely not a zombie.
Definitely not a zombie.
Dude, it's fucking freaking killer today. Like this it's the kids' first day of summer vacation. So as you know, I take my youngest son to physical therapy, so he's not exactly the most graceful. It's a family trait. So we've been working on coordination, physical development, stuff like that. And we went to the park today. So all the kids got to go to the park. And on the way home, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to get them all slushies. And now they're...
You went to Sonic and got them slushies, though, right?
No, dude, Walmart, 98 cents?
Walmart?
What?
Bro, what? Walmart?
Yeah,
you know that.
cents.
Okay, listen to me. Stop everything. Stop the show.
I'm not getting that. I'm not paying $4 for nerds. I will make my own nerd slushie.
What would oh my gosh, what would the billionaire version of Carlin do?
Still go to Walmart.
She would not. She would splurge on the cream slushes, which, guys, the blue raspberry cream slush, the cream slush with ice cream in it, and you get nerds in it. It's literally like heaven in a cup. What does Dwayne Johnson say? What can I say except you're welcome?
Dude,
Welcome,
your
guys.
pitch was on point. That was great.
Thanks. That was all right. You know, I'm a better guitar player. If anything, it's just it's Friday, man. I'm excited. Thank you guys for being here. Sonja, how are you?
Britt gets it. The sugar crash. That's right, Britt. That is exactly what I'm aiming for here. So I've got 2 down, 2 more to go.
Ooh, so you should have added some ice cream and nerds into those slushes, is what I'm hearing.
Dude, that's
literally what Brittany just got us saying, verbatim.
So, go buy them ice cream and slushies and put candy in it.
Oh, let's go, guys. Let's freaking go. Alan, thank you so much for being here, bro. Happy Friday. I hope you're having a fantastic week. Dude, I am so excited to give Alan a big freaking hug in Las Vegas. For everybody going to Las Vegas, we are about to have a killer freaking time. We are going to, we're going to work hard, man. We're going to move the needle forward. Everybody's business who's going to Las Vegas, your business will be in a much more elevated position leaving Las Vegas. My aim is to shave 3 years off of everybody's business in as little as 3 days. For everybody in VIP status, ooh, I have got some really juicy things. I shared those things with Carlin. Carlin, tell me that everyone's not going to have a killer time in Vegas. Tell me this is not going to like be the best thing in the world.
I think killer time is probably the most appropriate way you could phrase that.
It's a technical term. Which, speaking of technical terms, we're going to get a little technical with some of those terms today. We have an amazing guest today, guys.
Perf.
I'm excited for it. I'm super excited. The wonderful gentleman. I have been so blessed to be able to get to know him and to call him a friend. I learned just as much as I'm sure that he's learned from me. Amazing and wonderful individual. Carlin, before we bring him up, is there anything that everybody should know? What announcements do we got for everybody today? I know we've got book club
tonight.
Tell me about book club. Everybody who doesn't know what we're doing.
The book that we're wrapping up is like perfectly suited for what's about to happen in Vegas. Yes, Britt, thank you. Stop bullying me. I'm gonna live vicariously through you. But the book we're reading is Tribe of Millionaires, and if you are not finding your tribe in Vegas, you're Vegasing wrong. So, Tribe of Millionaires, we're wrapping up tonight, and then by popular demand, we're actually going to be starting Surrounded by Idiots. which I haven't read yet, but I've heard it's a really good book, so I'm pretty excited.
So you guys are wrapping up Tribe of Millionaires tonight, and then you're going to read another one called Surrounded by Idiots. What a polar opposite title there. You know, I typically try not to judge a book by its cover, but yeah, that'll be really, really interesting.
Sandra says Trump is a billionaire and he eats McDonald's. So 98-cent slushy.
Got me there. Got me there.
Oh yeah, that's right, Britt. You can't enjoy the water slide. That's what you get for making fun of me.
You know, I told my wife when we found out that she was pregnant, I said, you know what? We drew straws on who was going to do the carrying for the next 9 months. And you know, let's not pretend like I wasn't willing to draw a straw here. Okay, I did. You know, she just drew the short straw, unfortunately. But Brittany, we're gonna have tons of fun. For anybody else that's coming and growing a human inside of them, we're gonna have things for you to do too. We're gonna have tons and tons of fun. I'm super, super excited about it. If you guys are not involved in book club, I cannot tell you how big of an impact, how much my life has changed, how much my money has changed simply because I'm around people in book club. Well, first and foremost, one of the best things that anybody can do, they say that leaders are readers. So I want you to think about this real quick. Everybody that's watching this right now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm not where I want in my business. I really don't have people underneath me yet. I'm not a leader. I'm not leading anybody. Wrong. The best way to change your circumstance, where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself in 3 years from now? Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? Do you see yourself as a leader? The best thing that anybody can do to get some clarity on what you should be focusing on, what you should be doing right now, think about where you want to be in 3 years. Think about where you are in 5 years. I have a meditation that I did that if you guys want, go to the Growth Co. Facebook page or the Facebook group and post in there, I want the meditation, the millionaire meditation from Jesse. Because one of the best things that anybody can do is to get some clarity on who they see their future self being. Like, how do you act? What is your character like? What are your skills? What are your habits? What does your day-to-day look like? What does your door look like? What cars are you driving? What are the caliber and quality of your relationships? How do you serve people? What kind of a leader are you? How do you show up? And when you can have that type of clarity, and let me be super clear. If I wasn't clear enough, just let me paint this picture for you guys a little bit more real quick. I want everybody who's listening or watching this right now, I want you to look around where you are. If you're in your car, if you're in the store, if you're in your house, if you're in a room, if you're at work. And in great detail, I want you to describe your current reality. And as clear as you can say, I have a silver laptop with a black keyboard. I have a phone over here. I have a red coffee maker over here. This is the car I drive. This is what color my door is. This is exactly what my house looks like. This is the view I have walking out of my house. These are my neighbors. And with the same clarity that you can describe your current reality, you should be able to describe your ideal life in that exact same detail. Now, the cool thing about how you're going to bridge the gap between where you are and where that ideal reality is going to be getting around people who share the same values, who share the same information. Book club will completely change your life. I mean, the fact that you can take something that somebody spent 20, 30, 40, 50 years learning and compile it into a freaking book and then digest all of that information and discuss with other individuals on how to implement that information, be able to take that and tie that in with the reality that you want to create for yourself and your family. you can't afford to not be in book club. Carlin, for everybody who's not in book club or anybody who doesn't know about it, where should they go to join you this evening?
So Haley, my Haley will probably have the link on the Facebook page. If you don't see the link there, if you don't see the registration link, send myself or Haley a message and we'll get it sent over to you.
Got it. Copy that.
Yeah,
all right. Ladies and gentlemen, you have it.
Right.
All right.
Question. Are you going to do the thing for you? Are you going to do
I'm going to do the thing. I was wondering, should I do it? Should I introduce our guest first and then do it with him up here? Or do it before he comes up here?
Do it before he comes up here, and then we can see his face in utter shock.
Okay.
Right after.
All right. All right. So this is something that I created. What would you say? Probably about 6 weeks ago now.
Don't tell it. They don't just.
Well, everybody needs to know. I'm not going to give it away here, but this is something I've created about 6 weeks ago, and I've been waiting to unveil this. I have been waiting to share this with the masses. So we might have to. We might have to rewatch it a couple times. It's pretty good. All right. Without any further ado, I'm kind of embarrassed here, but let's go.
No, it's gold.
It's gold. I break it.
Will the real Dan please stand up? We're gonna have a problem here.
Hold on to your seats, let's turn up the gauge with a guest whose talents are truly elite. From stitching up patrons from day to day to turning deals in a major way. He's a doc with a knack for the real estate track. He's here to show you how he's never ever looking back. Meet Dan, a man with a plan to swap his scrubs for deeds in hand. In the world of buy and hold, he's bold, jumping out of the W2 mold. So give it up, let's make some noise for the physician who's turning more than just his toys. Meet Dan.
Will the real Dan please stand up?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Grove!
Wow, an introduction like that, you are the hip-hop king of Central Alaska.
Will the real Dan please stand up? How you doing this morning, bro? Or I guess
that was amazing.
Afternoon.
That was amazing. When is your rapping coaching program begin?
Still working on the details.
How are you doing, bro? It's so great to have you here, man.
I'm spectacular. This is very exciting.
Good. Well, I'm glad to have you here, man.
Glad to be here.
For those of you guys who don't know, Dan would sometimes show up to class and he would have a nurse, or what was it, an assistant, somebody, I don't know what their technical nerd term is, but there was a couple times where during class, we're in the middle of class, and Dan has somebody like holding up either a phone or like a laptop, and he's doing open heart surgery while he's in class talking about real estate and all these other kind of things. I got to see a side of Dan that nobody else got to see. So we're glad to have you here, and not during open heart surgery, but
fortunately, I don't do open heart surgery. They don't let me touch sharp objects in the hospital. So yeah.
Well,
They're scared of things perfect.
I'm so excited to be here. This is very exciting. I definitely like your walk-on music, like in the baseball. Definitely hard rock Jesse, Full Metal Jesse.
Yeah, it makes sense, right?
Jesse the Hair Stanton. I remember Jesse the Body Ventura. We had Jesse the Body Ventura when I was growing up. We have Jesse the Hair Stanton.
How have we not coined that yet, Jesse?
I don't know, man.
Dude, all right. Well, I'm gonna have to change that. If you guys didn't know, like Dan was the king of one-liners. That was so good. I'm gonna have to change my entire thing. Well, he is, yeah, 100%. So, Dan, for everybody who doesn't know, like every superhero has their origin story.
Right. Yes, I was bit by a radioactive spider. No, I was so my story, how did I get into this whole mess, right? I'm an intensive care and pulmonology doctor. So I do ICU and lung medicine. And I was part of a practice that was, I was like a junior partner. We had all kinds of businesses, like we did billing and collections, and we had supplies. And it was kind of an entrepreneurial kind of thing that we were part of. And then about like right in the height of the pandemic, we got an email from the hospital we had contract with saying that we had to become their employees or we're out. So we had no choice but to become employees of a big corporate health system. And
Wow.
so I got into medicine to be able to help people and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, medicine became a lot about corporate bureaucracy, about seeing certain numbers of patients and doing certain numbers of, it became less about what I got into it. So I started looking to other areas of revenue. And I got into real estate and I got into creative finance, and then sort of started building a portfolio. And then I don't even know how the Lord or Facebook or somebody put Jesse in front of me on a screen, and I joined his program. And now it's been a completely dramatic change in how I'm, what my future is going to be, what I'm striving for. I'm looking for building something where I can continue to do my job, but tell the hospital to, F off if they tell me I have to do certain things that I don't think is right. And I have something for my kids. I have 5 kids, so some of them may want to get into the business also. So it's been a wild ride.
So what made you jump into real estate? Like what was it? Was it wanting more? Was it wanting a different challenge? Was it money? Was it like, what was it? What were you looking for? Like, how did you end up? Where did that thought process first come? Did you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? And then it was like, oh, yep, that's interesting.
I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad a long time ago. Yeah. And so I definitely had, I never grew up with anybody who had a lot of money. I didn't have any new people in business. Like, I have a lot of engineers in my family and, therapists, not a lot of business people. So it wasn't something that was in my mindset. But I had met some people in real estate, and I just felt like this was the best way for somebody to build a future, build wealth. It was also the simplest. Like, I can understand it. You can understand a house. Like, you can invest in businesses, but each business is sort of its own thing. Whereas real estate is very simple to understand. You buy a house, you have expenses, you have rent, there's appreciation. It's not so complicated to understand. So I felt like this was the best way for me to find something that I could build that independence, that future, without, completely dumping everything and starting something new.
So I've got a question for you then, because I can really relate to the engineers, the medical, the very structured mind, if you will. So
Right.
When you were like, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to go do my own thing, what was the family response to that? Were they like, oh, wait, no, what about a 401k and a Roth, and you're supposed to build your wealth in the next 65 years?
Right. Yeah. So I did a lot of research. I guess you go through medical school, you learn how to absorb large amounts of information in short periods of time as part of the training. So I did it in a way where I did a lot of research. I read a lot of books. Your book club, I read all the books, and I was able to find a way to use equity from my house. I was blessed to have equity in the house that I could use without sort of affecting like my retirement. And I didn't jump into this where I'm, selling the farm and, putting it all. I did it a little more sort of smartly in that way, so that if I totally failed, it wasn't going to affect my ability to, pay the bills and feed the family. But then as I got into, I joined Pace Morby's group, Sub 2, and I saw how many different ways there is to be successful at this, which really got me excited, because I love that, that my kids can get into this no matter, Jesse will tell you, like, you're probably getting to see this as your kids get older. Like, you have 5 kids and they're all so different. You know what I mean? You make them the same way, but they come out like totally different. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if you baked a cake, and then like one time it came out a cake, and then you did the exact same thing and it came out like a steak. Like, it's weird. They're all so different. So there's so many different opportunities. If my kids want to stay home, like my daughters want to be stay-at-home moms, they can do stuff. And if they want to do more, whatever they want, there's so many options. So I got really excited by all the different avenues, all the different sort of exciting ways that you can connect and build and grow. And obviously the fact that it makes money is what makes it justifiable. But I think that the excitement of building something that can grow and last, and the challenge of doing that, I think, is the real exciting thing, like pushing limits, stretching comfort zones, being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. How much of a piece of self-development in your experience, how big does self-development play into anybody's income?
So I don't, it's like almost everything. I mean, you cannot, I think we all sort of exist we're all kind of floating down a river, like corks on a river. That's what I kind of think about most people, right? Is that you're not sailing down the river. You're the product of the way you were raised, your culture, your education, your family, and that pushes you down a path, right? And that's sort of the path that most people just follow. They kind of float down it. Like I was blessed that path where it was medicine was an option for me, and so that I had a great opportunity. But I think most people just head down that path. They don't ever sort of think of going outside of that. And I think the only way that you can break out of that is self-development, because you have to find what your limits are so that you can stretch beyond them. If you don't know your limits, right, then you don't know what you're capable of. The only way to really know what your limit is to push to the point where you can't do anymore, right? Until you've gotten to the point where that's the best you can do, then you don't know what you're capable of. The problem, I think, is that most of us are so far under our capabilities, right, that it's hard to imagine where we could get to. You know what I mean?
What kind of advice would you have for somebody who's like, because I was actually just on a meeting with a gentleman named Philip right before we jumped in here, and I was telling him, I was like, dude, he's like, dude, I'd love to hear a little bit about your story. And I was telling him, when I first got into this, I was in the Air Force. I was making a little over $3,000, netting a little over $3,000 every other week on the first. I get paid on the 1st and the 15th. So I was netting about a little over $6,000 a month. And when I would get my paycheck on the 1st and the 15th, I would look at that $3,200 or $3,300, and I'd look at it and be like, Jesse, I'd ask myself, Jesse, are you getting paid what your true worth is? And I would probably venture a guess that most of the people watching this right now, and most of the people that'll be watching this in the future, would probably look at what their income is coming, it looks like, and probably say the same thing I did. No, I'm not getting paid what my true worth is. But then, like you said, we hit this ceiling that is where comfort ends and discomfort begins. But a lot of people decide to not really push those boundaries. A lot of people decide that, hey, let me play small. It's safer down here. Let me shoot for something small. Once I feel like I'm comfortable with it, then I'll slightly increase that. Once I feel comfortable with that, then I'll slightly increase that. And then that's how you have people on these 3 to 5 to 10 year, just very gradual, steady slope. And a lot of times that's how you go 6 months, 12 months of just being on the same hamster wheel and literally no progress is being made. For those types of individuals, and I'm saying this specific, not only because I know that there are individuals that are going through that. David Wells says 100%. That exact scenario used to be me. So for anybody else, Dan, who used to be me, what would you say to those individuals in that kind of position?
Yeah, so I think that I always think of that is that if you think of it as that your future, seeing your future, I think, is like trying to see white light inside of a prism, meaning you cannot imagine what your future is based on your current construct. Like the person you are now is incapable of seeing the person you're capable of becoming. So if you're going to wait until you can conceive of it to get there, like if you're not going to start the path until, well, I can't imagine myself ever being like that. So since I can't imagine it, I'm not going to pursue it. Well, the person you are now can imagine it, is incapable. It's only the person you become when you get there. Like you can't be told. It's like when you're in, if you think about it, when you were a kid, you were in, middle school, and you just can't imagine yourself being with those big high school kids because the middle schooler can't conceive of it. Right. And then you're in high school and you're like, oh, like, what's the big deal? I can't imagine being in college, right? I can't imagine being, like you said, like you probably started the Air Force. I can't imagine being the guy in the front of the room educating. And the answer is the you there can't.
Right.
Right. So 100%. If you're waiting for yourself based on your current position to only do that which you're capable of imagining or picturing, I think that's the problem. You're not going to get there. You're just going to go incremental. And I think that's the value of having like a coach or a mentor or somebody outside of you that says, oh, no, you're capable of this, right? Now you can't see it because the you now isn't capable of it. The you that you're going to become is. But you can't conceive of that future yourself the way you are now. You have to break through. You have to break the prism. You have to get out of it. You have to move to that future space, and then you'll understand it. So you have to have the coach, the mentor, the guide that says you can do it. And then you then have to say, okay, I can't imagine that. It's not possible, but I'm going to do it anyways because I trust that person. If they say I can do it, I can do it.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. No, gosh, dang, dude. Carlin, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I know you've gone through a pretty big transformation yourself in the last 18 months. Is there any validity to that?
Yeah, that was like Inception. Holy crap. I would actually, I really love the analogy that you used because I specifically remember being in 8th grade going, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a freshman. Like, I don't even know how to do that. And then you get to freshman year and you're just like, oh, I'm just in a much bigger space with much bigger people. So now I need to adapt and evolve and push myself to be in this bigger space with these bigger people. And to me, that's kind of what entrepreneurship is. Like, you know where you are now, but you see the bigger space with the bigger people and you're like, okay, I want to go there though. So I'm going to go put myself with that bigger space and those bigger people and figure out how they're functioning and how they're evolving and how they're living. So I just absolutely love that analogy because it's so in tune with not only school, but with life. And the older I get, the more I see parallels between like different experiences. For context, I've said it once and I'll say it again. I dropped out of high school. But as an adult, I'm looking back and I'm like, oh, you know what? I do have to stand in line. I do have to wait my turn. I do have to know how to make a PowerPoint presentation. And so all these things, there's so many parallels between life as a child and life as an entrepreneur. And so just like to see the progression of, hey, I can't conceptualize that. It doesn't make sense to me. I couldn't imagine having to be able to adapt or evolve or do this. It's like walking into a classroom and being like, hey, teacher, I have absolutely no fucking idea what you're talking about, but you're here to teach me and I'm here to learn. So I guess I'm going to sit down, shut up, and when you tell me what I need to do, then I will do that. And then you get to the point where everything kind of comes into place and you start seeing and understanding, okay, here I am. This is where I am. This is where I need to be. What do I do next? And then now you move to college. Now you move to whatever. Now you're in medical school. Now you're Dan performing open heart surgery with a baby on your lap and a tablet in front of your face.
Right.
So
yeah. Well, eating
while eating steak and ice cream, probably.
So right, funny, but I mean, it's interesting is that like why do 8th graders go to high school? Like I bet you if you asked 8th graders, like, do you think you're capable of high school, and then let them decide whether they move on based on what they think they're capable of, we'd have very few people in high school, right? But that's what people are asking is like, if you want to build a life that you want to build, is you're sort of in that position. It's because you're being pushed in that direction. But if you just the faith is, okay, I can't see it now, I can't understand it now, but somebody tells me it's possible. I've seen other people do it, right? Then you just have to that's the leap. I don't think courage is not having fear. Courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Yeah. Right. And so I think, you hear stories of like these, rock stars who get stage fright, after being, performing for 20 years, they still get stage fright. I mean, I think that's the thing is like, you have to decide, is this the right thing to do? Is it reasonable? You do your research and you say, okay, but I can't do that. So you're right. The you now can't do that, but the you that you're going to become can. And you can only become that you if you take that leap.
One thing I've really learned since being in real estate, I'm willing to bet both of you guys can probably relate to this. Like before real estate, before starting entrepreneurship, it was like, oh man, this makes me a little bit jittery. This makes me a little bit nervous. So I'm going to stop. And then you get into this space where you see other people doing all these things and you're like, wow, they're so brave. They're so confident. They just have it. They get everything. They have it all. And you talk to them and they're like, no, dude, that scared me shitless. I did it anyway, though.
Right.
And since talking to those people, evolving with those people, if something creates that jittery nervousness, my brain's like, oh, we're going to do it. Like, I'm waiting for the day that someone's like, hey, we're going to go jump out of an airplane. I'm less scared of jumping out of the airplane than I am getting onto the airplane.
Right.
So that hurdle would be just getting on the airplane for me.
I think it's also, I think it's interesting, like, you know, in terms of the physiology, your body responds to fear and excitement in the same way. Your heart races, you get sweaty palms, your mouth is dry, you're excited, right? And usually if you look at the difference between people who are like athletes, it's funny. I can't remember, one of the books I read was like talking about an athlete will have like, you know, fourth quarter game on the line and they feel the heart racing, sweaty palms, you know, breathing fast, dry mouth. And then, but they want to be in that situation. They want to excel. The same athlete, you put them in before an exam, same feeling, same response, and they panic, right? It's all about how you frame that feeling. What is that feeling? If you reframe fear as saying, well, I'm excited, I'm jazzed, I'm energized, you can reframe that and realize that your body is reacting the same way to the experience. You know, I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Oh, wait, I'm actually feeling excited, I'm feeling energized, I'm feeling motivated, I'm moving, you know, it's the same, it's all the same. You just have to decide in your brain how you're going to define it, you know, in your head.
I 100% agree with that. And let me even take it a step further. Let me ask you something real quick. This is really, really good. I love where we're going with this. What would you say to those individuals that feel like they are faking it? Like they reframe it, they do it anyway. Maybe they feel like they're faking it. Maybe a little bit of even imposter syndrome.
I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by faking it. I mean, I think of faking it like fraud, like you're lying about something. If you're actually out there, you know, trying to buy houses or trying to learn about real estate or trying to do stuff, then you're not faking it, right? You're doing it for real. I mean, and an imposter syndrome is a sign. I think an imposter syndrome is a sign that you're at that, you're just stretching a little bit, right? Meaning, yeah, you're going to feel like I can't do this, or this is not who I am. But that's, I think, again, why it's so important to have coaches and mentors to say that feeling is that same sort of, there's that voice that's always trying to hold you back, because there's this voice that doesn't want you to stretch, that doesn't want you to work hard, that's trying to protect you. There's a voice inside your head that's always trying to protect you.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes when you know, like parents that are overprotective, they don't allow the kids to develop. So that voice can sometimes be overprotective. And so if you're feeling like I'm an imposter, then that's okay. That's just another sign that, okay, I'm stretching the limits a little bit here. And it's okay to feel like an imposter. And like I said, same as the fears, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, so you feel it. I feel like an imposter, but okay, I'm gonna do it anyway, right? You know, I remember very clearly. I don't know. I have this vision. When I was 5 years old, I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm learning to swim. Well, I'm not learning to swim yet because I'm standing on the edge of the pool, right? And I remember that the swim teacher is there waiting to catch. He says, "Jump in," right? And I'm terrified, right? Because this is like sudden death, right? There's no way I can't swim. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna drown. It's gonna be terrible. Like, that's the feeling. I remember that feeling very carefully. Yeah. And then I remember at some point there was a break, and I don't know why, but I just jumped, right? Even though everything in my brain was saying this is the crazy, irrational thing to do. But I think that's the idea. You feel like an imposter, you feel afraid, you feel nervous, and that's okay. That's normal. Everybody feels that way. But you still jump, you still go, right? And that's, I think, what successful people have. I don't think that they're less afraid. I don't think they're less anxious. I think they all have imposter syndrome also. It's just that they feel it, they experience it, they live with it, they're mindful of it, and then they move on. I mean, I think it's fine. Like, if you're feeling anxious, it's okay. You can do like a check. Okay, let's see. You know, am I gonna not be able to pay my bills? Am I, you know, is this crazy? have I done my research? Have I done my reading? And if the answer is you've done all those things, I'm just afraid, then that's okay. It's afraid. Then you move forward.
Yeah, I think when you have those type of instances in your life where, like you talk about, where you have the anxiety, you have fear, and despite the fear, let me ask you this. Is it, if you have an instance or a circumstance in your life where it requires you to be courageous, if you don't fancy yourself as somebody who is a courageous individual, but in that circumstance you fake being courageous and you do the courageous thing anyway, is that faking it, or is that what courage is?
I mean, if you're doing something courageous, you're courageous. It's not faking it. You know what I mean? If you buy a real estate, if you buy a property, you're a real estate investor. That's not faking it. That's not an imposter. You're a real estate investor. If you lend somebody money on a PML, you're a real estate investor. There's no imposter, right? You know, you're not going out there claiming to be like Grant Cardone or something. You're saying, I'm a real estate investor. This is what I do, right? You know, I want to buy your house. You want to buy the house, right? You want to make it happen. Then there's no imposter there. You're building something. You know, we're building something. We're growing. We're building, and so there's nothing false about any of that. So if it's not false, then there's no imposter. Imposter means you're pretending to be something you're not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're even in the sort of the data gathering, the consumer phase, right? You say, I'm a real estate investor. Well, you are still, right? You haven't made that first step. I guess if you go like 10 years of only consuming, then maybe you should reassess. But there's nothing fake. You're being courageous when you do courageous things, even if, and so then objectively you're a courageous person just by definition, right? I mean, anybody who's willing to say listen, I'm not happy with the way my life is going right now, to the point where I'm willing to make a drastic change into something where most people don't do it. And a lot of people are going to tell me I'm crazy. That's by definition courageous. Even making the statement that I'm going to do that publicly, you're courageous, right? You're trying to make a change. Even making the effort, you're already like, I think there's something like some data, like only 2% of people take the stairs. Only 2% of people will do what it takes to stick to a diet and lose weight. Like, it's like there's this 2% rule where it's like, you want to be in the 2%, right? And if you're making the effort, if you already started the process, you're already in that 2% that's making a difference, that's trying to make a difference for yourself, for your future, then there's no imposter. There's no faking. That's all real. You're doing all the things, right? You may or may not become a multimillionaire. It doesn't matter, right? You're gonna strive. You're gonna move. You're gonna go, and then what will be will be. But don't ever let it be that the reason you didn't achieve what you want is because you didn't take the steps. You didn't take the effort, make the effort. So, I mean, better to have tried and failed than to never tried at all, you know?
Absolutely. No, I agree with everything, man. Dude, I don't know if you've seen the comments at all, man. This is awesome though. Dude, give Dan some love, guys. This is freaking amazing. I feel like this is great. I get to be just here and just be in student mode right now, dude. And this is awesome, being able to hear from and learn from you, man. This is really, really great. So thank you. I know a lot of people look at fear and it can be either something that drives them to do something magnificent, something wonderful. It can also be something that causes people to cripple. How do you decide what to do when you're faced with those kind of scenarios?
So I remember I had a basketball coach who used to tell me that fear is a muscle, you know, it gets you moving. So, I mean, I think then you have, I think that's like I said, you have mentors, you have coaches, you have people that tell you this is the way to go, right? You're doing the right thing. You have people around you that are doing this. You join communities like the Growth Co community or like Sub 2 or something like that, where you go to meetups, you meet people that are similar, that are doing this, and you say, okay, you know, is my fear is my fear justified? Meaning, right, like, is it true that I can't do this, or that I'm definitely going to fail? And the answer, and you can't trust yourself in this case, right? Like, you really have to say, you have to trust the people around you, and trust the process, and trust the thing that you're doing, because again, I think that if you just rely on like your gut feel, I'm a big opponent of this idea of all, or like every Disney or movie or whatever that says that, trust your gut, trust your feelings, which is like, I don't think that's true. Like, your feelings change. Your feelings are erratic. They're, irrational. Like, trust your gut if you're hungry, maybe. I don't know, but like, trust your brain, right? Trust your brain, trust other people, right? Trust your brain, trust people, meaning like, if you did the research and you know this is the right thing to do, and then you talk to people who have done it and say it's possible, that's who you trust, right? Your body's going to be afraid because it's going to want to keep you, everything's designed to keep you to stay put. But trust the people around you. Go to meetups, get on calls with people. Like say, listen, can I do this? Right? Is this possible? And you'll find people that, oh yeah, I was just like you. This is what I did. And you'll find that the more you network, the more you connect. And that's like your Tribe of Millionaires idea. That book is like that. And then you surround yourself with people that can see that, have the vision of what's possible, and you trust them. You know what I mean? And you trust them, and then you just start taking the steps, find out the steps, and then start moving. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you mentioned, like community and stuff in there. You were talking a little bit earlier about if you had the option, if you were to give people the option and say, hey, do you guys feel like you're prepared to go to high school? Gosh dang, dude, what a freaking phenomenal question. Because I think you're absolutely right. I think the majority of people would be like, no, I'm not ready. If they had that choice, then they would not decide to move forward. And I think this is such a great, let's play with that scenario here for a second. Let's say that we could do that. Let's say you could go to all the 8th graders and say, hey, who feels like they're ready for high school? If you don't feel like you're ready, you don't have to move forward. Then let's say that you could group people together with people who are confident. And then what if you were to one by one bring people into that group, and leading up to the start date of high school, how impactful do you think those friends or those groups would be to building everybody else's confidence?
Yeah, especially if you had a 9th grader come and say, "Oh, I felt the same way, and I'm doing fine." Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So if you've never bought a property, well, you can probably find somebody that has, and says, "Oh, I was in your position. You can totally do this," and knowing that when they tell you that, you're not going to believe them. You're not going to believe them. It's not going to feel like, that you're going to say to yourself, yeah, but you don't know how lame I am, right? Like, if you really knew how unqualified I was, you wouldn't say that, right? That's a like stupid voice in your head, right? Right? I mean, but I
know that voice all too well.
I can do this. I am uniquely unqualified for this, right? Right? That's how we all feel, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, man.
Right.
I want to bring a different perspective into this scenario, though. Like, let's say we're all getting ready to go to high school. Okay. A lot of it, though, what if you're sticking around that group of people that's like, oh, I'm not ready to go to high school. Yeah, no, I'm definitely not ready to go to high school. Oh, we don't even want to go to high school. We're definitely not going to high school. Then at that point, your whole mentality that you are 110% sure that you are not ready to go to high school.
Right.
So instead of hanging out that one kid that's like, oh, I'm so excited to go to high school, it's going to be great, you're stuck in this little crowd of people that's all compare and contrast about who is the most not ready to go to school.
Yeah, I think that there's one piece that's important in all this is that you need to have the vision of where you're headed, the distance. You know what I mean? So you have to focus. Okay, what do I actually want to accomplish, right? And so then, because if you don't have that, if you're just going to the next step, you don't know why, then you might get stuck. It's like, oh, I want to be a doctor. Well, I got to go to high school, even though I'm not capable of, I don't think I'm capable of, I got to do it anyways. And these people are holding me back, but I have a vision. I'm going to stick to my vision. Right. So I think that you have that, if you have the vision, which also, again, mentors, peers, people can help you develop. But I find that, I see this a lot. This is kind of like with marriage, I think, so I'm about to have my 20th anniversary, and I find it very interesting when single people get dating advice from other single people. Right?
Freaking gold.
No disrespect, but it's like, right? Like it's like you want to get dating advice from somebody who's been married for 50 years, if that's what you want to accomplish. If you want to be married for 50 years, you find somebody who's been married for 50 years, right? If you want to be a successful real estate investor, you don't get advice from people who haven't bought anything yet, right? You don't find mentorship from people who haven't done what you want to do, right? So it's like the combination. You have the vision, but then you have to combine yourself with that path, find the path. You want to be a doctor, find a doctor, what they do, right? You want to be in the Air Force, you find somebody who's in the Air Force, right? Whatever it is you want to do. And then you have to say, okay, they'll tell you this is possible for you. You won't believe it, but then you say, okay, but I'm gonna do it anyways, and I'm gonna follow a path, right? So I think that's important. So I think if a bunch of 8th graders were asking other 8th graders, then it's going to be a problem, right? Unless that 8th grader has a vision, like I want to be something, and this is the path that I need to take.
I think that's great, dude. I think that's great perspective. How would you recommend? Because I like I said, I just got off a call with an individual before we hopped into here. And he was telling me, he jumps in, really, really amazing individual. I'm actually really looking forward to getting to talk with this guy a little bit more. But he starts telling me a little bit about his experience, where he started, where he's at right now. And then when he jumped on my Calendly's booked 6 weeks out. So he's waited a hot minute for our conversation today. And he said everybody that he's been talking to the last 6 weeks has, for the most part, just been a lot of new people that are still looking to get their first deal. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to kind of bridge the gap a little bit between other individuals who are in a similar situation where maybe they've spent, we're going on almost 6 months into, they're almost halfway through the year now. Uh-huh. And I want everybody in here real quick to think, everybody who's watching this, everyone's going to be watching this in the future. I want you to think about all the conversations you've had over the course of the last almost 6 months now. And I want you to think how much more money you guys are making now. If you're not making more money, then it's definitely time that you do an audit, a time and energy audit. You evaluate what you're doing on your day-to-day, what your habits look like, what skills you're building, and probably even most importantly, who you are conversing with, who you are surrounding yourself with. When you get around a group of A players, my goodness, it's almost like even when you feel like you're not ready, it's almost like being on a football team or something, and everybody else is psyched, and you're like, man, I'm so nervous for the game tonight. I don't know if I'm going to play well. Like you said, like you start getting the anxiety, your palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on a sweater already.
Mom spaghetti.
But then you have everybody else around you that's there to hold you and bring you along. Be like, dude, we're going to fucking crush it tonight. We've got you. It's crazy how fast and how drastically things can change with just that little bit of an intention. But Dan, I'd love for you to, what is your insight in that? What is your experience with that? You talked about having a vision, and when you have clarity on what it is you're trying to do, you can kind of start being a little bit more intentional with the who's that you need to put in your line of path to get you from where you are. And that way you're not spending 6 months just randomly connecting with anybody and everybody, or going to random meetups or events or masterminds, and it's all just random. You're doing nothing but shaking hands and kissing babies and then just adding phone numbers to your iPhone. What would you suggest or have somebody do?
So I think it's probably 3 things. One is having the vision. So maybe having somebody who's maybe where you want to be, or has that vision of what you're capable of, or the coach. And then I think having a group of people that hold you accountable, that are where you're at in terms of your movement, right? Meaning they're also motivated. They're also people that are like, let's do it anyways. And so then when you do your meetings, like when you have your connections, I think then your connections are going to be determined what your goal is, right? Like, you know, for me, if I'm trying to build a portfolio of you know, single family homes, and I need, like you always say, you need deals and you need money. So then my meetings are going to be focused on those two things. And I'm going to try to spend my time working on those two things. How do I maximize those two things? So that means that, am I going to be spending a lot of time connecting with transaction coordinators? Right? No, because there's the angel. We have an angel. Her name is Angel, and she's an angel, right? And so, and she's in the chat.
There she
Angel,
is.
right? So like, right? So you're going to find people that are going to do those things. I'm not going to spend my time doing stuff like that. Like I'm going to try to find somebody that's going to help do, you know, social media marketing, and who's going to help set up systems, because I'm going to be focusing on those two things. And so you find people that are better at you at doing the things that are not part of that laser focus, and have them do it because they're better than you. And then you can focus on those things. But you have to have the vision of what you're trying to accomplish. You want to be a connector? Well, then how do you build a connector business, right? Well, then your meeting's going to be like that. And then you're going to try to get other people to do, who are better at doing the things that are necessary to support that. And move from there. I think that's the beauty of having the vision and the focus and what that vision is, and then just sticking to it, you know.
Dude, I
want to buy houses. I'm not wholesaling. Like, so I'm not spending time getting lists or cold calling or talking to agents or doing any of that, because that's something somebody else should do. So we'll find wholesalers to do that. And that's what they're good at. That's their focus, right? So depending on what your vision is and what you're trying to accomplish, then you can decide what your actions and what you're going to be doing to get you to that point.
Brandon says it takes a tribe to build a successful business. Where should somebody start if they're doing this themselves right now?
So, I mean, I think there are a lot. It depends. Like, I'm biased because I joined the Sub 2 mentorship, and that was a huge boost for me. But I think that you can find local meetups. If you're not going to join that, you can connect to local meetups and say, find somebody that's going to say, okay, what listen, I want to do this. First of all, I mean, I think that, like, you first have to figure out personally what you want to accomplish, you know, aside from just the, you know, real estate. And I think that you have to play, I think that the 7 whys, I think is what they call it. Like, so I want to make, you know, all this money. Well, why? Right. You know what I mean? Like, cause you can, you know, I think like Jeff Bezos is divorced, and, you know, I don't know that he's such a happy guy. He's the richest man that ever lived. Right. So just having money is not going to make you happy. So why do you want to have that money? Well, I want to do this. Why do you want to do that? Why do you know, and get down to the point? Okay, this is what's pushing me. This is what I want to accomplish. Okay, now that's my why. That's why I'm doing it. And so now I'm going to say, okay, so now how do I get there? How does real estate, how does money get me to that goal? And so then you say, okay, what's the best way to get there? And that's when you start asking around, start meeting people and say, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. I want to make this difference in the world. How do you think real estate's the best way to get me that? Right. And then as you sort of meet people, as you join communities, you're gonna probably be able to narrow down the answers. You get to something that makes sense. You find yourself a coach, a mentor, a community, and then you have to build your structure from that. Find your vision, find your coach or find your mentors, and then you find your tribe. Find the people that are wanting the same thing and are going to support you, right, and encourage you, and that you can support and encourage them, and then you build from there. But that's the way that's just what I did. Like, I joined the Sub 2 mentorship, and then I got connected. I learned, but more importantly than learning, I connected with all kinds of different people. And then I joined the coaching program. So plug for the Growth Code, because that's totally transformed. That, like, Jesse, you are that coach vision, right? That helps create the vision, and then, you know, tells me I'm not crazy, that this is possible, right? And then through this group, I have this amazing accountability group and these amazing people that are doing the same thing. Let's work together. Let's help each other out. Let's push each other forward, stretch each other a little bit. I think that's part of and I don't know that that's necessarily true for real estate. Like, it's true for whatever you want to accomplish. You know, I'm guessing if you want to excel in the Air Force, you find somebody who's in, you know, whatever level you want to do or whatever you want to accomplish, and you say, how'd you get there? And then you find other people in your level that want to do the same thing, and you support each other, you know. And then you avoid anything which distracts you from that.
So it's all about what you say no to, is what I'm hearing you say. Because I see so many people, man, that they want to make the money, they want to do the things, they see the all the shit on Instagram, they see the 1, 2, 3 Lamborghini, you know, And every single person who jumps into their DMs, who gives them a call, gives them a text, tags them on Facebook, is like, hey, we need to jump on a call. Hey, I have this opportunity. Hey, I have this. So those individuals that continue to be like, oh, let me get on a phone call with this guy. Oh, let me shoot this guy a text. Oh, wait, let me go over here and look at this deal. What do you say to those individuals?
So I think, yeah, again, you have to start with your like, why are you doing this? Like, the great book you're going to just called Start With Why. Like, first of all, why do you want to get in real estate? What are you accomplishing first? Yeah. That's like, you always want to start with, I mean, it's also whatever, it's the 7 habits, right? Start with the end in mind, right? Is one of the habits of highly effective people, which is like, so, you know, why do you want to do this? Why do you want a Lamborghini? Because I guarantee you, if you don't have a good reason for wanting a Lamborghini, when you get your Lamborghini, you will be no happier and you will have wasted all the time getting up to that point. Okay, I want to be rich. Why? I want to be independent. Why? Because I want to go on vacation. Well, why? You know, like, what do you want to accomplish in the world? And that's, I think, where you have to start. And then you say, okay, well, now let's work backwards. Okay, so how can real estate get me to that point? What do I need to accomplish to get there? And then now we're going to focus on that. I think a lot of people look at this real estate stuff and they see it as an escape, like they hate their jobs. It's like an escape. I just want to get out.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know that that's necessarily the best way to approach it, because, you know, it may not be escape. You may be working harder in real estate. You know what I mean? And you may not like it. Right. But, you know, I think that if you figure out why you're doing what you're doing, and then focus everything on that, then it makes it easier to say no to things, because you're like, okay, this is not what I'm here for. You know, I'm not trying to accomplish this in the world. I'm trying to accomplish something else. And this is what I got to do.
That's so good, dude. I could not agree more with that statement. When you have the clarity on what it is you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it, when everything else starts popping up on your radar, when people start filling up your inbox, and people start emailing you a bunch of shit, and people start reaching out, want to jump on Zooms and calls, like it's clear. It's like, no, this doesn't have anything to do with why I'm doing it. And you got to be so protective of your time, as everybody in here knows. Time is the most valuable asset that we have.
Right. Right.
What are you working on right now? For anybody that's watching this right now, that's like, man, how do I get in with Dan Grove? How can I come in and serve him? How can I be a resource for him so that we can do shit together?
Yeah. So right now I'm building relationships. Like, I'm connecting with people who are interested in lending. Like, so I'm helping a lot of people that are going to get their first deal by being an equity partner. So if somebody doesn't know, if somebody's at that point where they're afraid to take that first step, but they have the money, but they're just like keep afraid. So what we'll do is I'll split a deal with them 50-50, right? And I'll take them through the whole process. I'll find the deal. We'll partner up. They can be a part of it and they have half the deal. So getting private money partners and lenders. Then I'm also connecting with wholesalers to find deals that we can get into and build from there. So it's an opportunity to partner with us is an opportunity to grow, give yourself a chance. Like, I really like the idea of, like, you know, you can help somebody get past that first hump. Once you do one, it's so much easier. Like, number two is like, it's not like, it's so much easier than number one. They're not even the same thing. Yeah. So if I can help you get number one, then number two becomes easier, and you can get number two on your own. Right. Or we can partner with somebody who's like, I just don't, I want to be in real estate, but I don't want to do all the garbage. Great. Like, we can help you with that too. And then I'm helping connecting with wholesalers. If you're a wholesaler and you get good deals, I want to be one of your buyers. So I'm just building those things up as I can grow. Yeah.
So just let me make sure I understood you right. I can't imagine that I heard you wrong here. If somebody comes across, somebody can connect you with something that you need, that could be one relationship. And they could go from spending all of this time, energy, and effort trying to figure out how to do this, and spending time calling, trying to figure out how to get buyers and how to underwrite and how to comp and how to negotiate. They could bypass all of that and be like, oh, Dan needs this. If I come across it, I could go from where I'm at to getting my first deal done just like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And we'll take you through the whole process. Like, you can be on every Zoom, you can be on every email, you can be on we'll sit down and explain to you, like, all the stuff that we're doing. Cause I think that's a service that we can provide people, like, to help people get over that hump. I know there's so many people that they can't get that first one. And the first one is the biggest obstacle. Yeah. And so we can get them the first one, then they can move on, and then they can become successful themselves. Maybe they just start their whole own thing, and that's great. They just needed that first kick. to get them going. And catalysts are huge. So I'm hoping to help people with that. And then if maybe some people just want to have some passive income, and I can help with that,
Dude, I love that, man. I think this is such a great testament to how it's very counterintuitive to how most of us, I would venture a guess, probably jumped into real estate thinking that it was this big, gigantic thing. I know for me, and Carlin, Dan, I think this was similar for you as well. And I know a lot of our other clients as well, is we see what the 1% have. And so we're like, oh, we got to do what the 1% is doing. Well, the 1% are out here buying assets. So we decided to jump into real estate, start buying assets. And under this umbrella of real estate, I've noticed there's also a 1% and a 99%. And you got the 99% that are over here that are doing things that are kind of counterintuitive to what you're talking about right now. Everybody else is saying, hey, you got to go get a list. You got to skip trades. You got to blah, 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 blah. You got to make calls. You got to do the wholesale thing. You got to whatever. And you're saying, hey, you know what? Let's have a conversation. If you can connect it with even one person, you can literally bypass all of that shit and you can be a part owner. Like, let's go do some cool shit together. Am I hearing you right, Dan? I just want to make sure I'm not mishearing
absolutely,
this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's freaking simple, bro.
For sure. Yeah. I personally get more joy out of the relationships, right? We have to make money to justify this, but the relationships are what really makes us cool. Like, my first deal was somebody helped me out, and I had a wholesaler that I work with, and it was, once I got over the hump, it was, actually we were both doing our first deal, so we helped each other out. So I think that's a service that I think is worth it. I think people should be wary of these programs that you sign up for, especially wholesaling trainings. I've just had so many conversations with people like, yeah, I did this one and they didn't help anything. And I did this one and they didn't help anything. Right. You know what I mean? So, you want to be part of something like, like Growth Core, like Sub 2, where it's not just about, let me take your money and I'll give you a couple of whatever books, or I don't know what they do. I was blessed to have bypassed all those programs. And I don't, anything that involves somebody in front of a private jet or a Lamborghini is probably something to be wary of in general, because listen, it's not easy like that. Those people probably like busted their ass for 20 years before they got to that point, and they just started making YouTube videos recently, so they can get you to give them $20,000 to get their secret, which was, the secret is work for 20 years and you can have your private jet, right? You know what I mean?
So you're saying go find somebody who is around moose all the time, somebody who's out there,
for sure,
not in front of the Lambos, but maybe, rides dog sleds or, something like that.
Sure. Yeah. I think for sure, if somebody's willing to give something to you in exchange for you giving something to them, then that's a sign. That's a sign. If anybody's telling you like a get rich easy scheme, it's probably not true. I don't know if you saw it. I keep telling you, Jesse, to watch the movie, my favorite movie, The Princess Bride.
Yeah, I've got it on my list.
There's a line in that movie that says, life is pain. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. Meaning, this is a get rich slow scheme. This is a work scheme, but it's real, and it's possible, and it's doable, and anyone can do it. And I can help you if you want to join with me, or I can connect you to other people who are doing similar things. The Growth Coast is full of people who are doing similar things that I do. They're and probably doing it better, but there's amazing people out there, and usually they're not always the ones with the fancy YouTube videos, right? They're too busy, getting stuff done, and so I'd be happy to help people if that's what the way they're looking to get in. For sure, I would do that for people. Yeah.
Love
and
that,
if you're a
bro.
wholesaler, I can be, one of your buyers if you need buyers. Yeah.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that, Dan. Where can everybody get a hold of you?
So I put in a chat. I could put my email.
For sure. Yeah.
I got the circling thing. There it goes. And I can give
there it is.
There we go.
I'm on Facebook. I was never on social media before the real estate thing. So I'm learning about social media, which is an experience. Okay, here, I'll put the Facebook link too.
See Dan in front of a private jet on a Facebook ad here shortly.
I was gonna say, Dan, they can find you in the airlines. Which airline can you generally be found in? What airport?
Southwest, usually. Southwest Airlines is right. That's my private jet. Depending on how many points I have on the card, right? So yeah, I don't know if private jets are in my future. One day I'd like to fly first class. That would be exciting for me.
Bro, let's do. I will get on an airplane to fly to you so we can fly first class.
But I'm only going to fly first class when I can do it every time. Right? Only when you can afford to do it every time. Because once fair. I feel like once you do it once, and then you're like every other time, you're like, oh, I miss it. You know.
Dude, you know what I really want to do? I want to fly first class on an international flight.
Oh yeah, with like they have like they fold down. I don't know how they make people
turn into couches.
I don't know. There's some things that you like that you put on the when I'm rich list, like that's these like your slushies, like the slushies. What is that? You said heaven in a cup, or was it diabetes in a cup? I can't remember.
One of the other is same
one
concept.
Of those things. You get any kind of slushy, whoever you want it, and then hopefully you can.
When you're rich, you go to Sonic, man, and get some. Yeah, get some slushies with ice cream and nerds in them.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Sonic sounds pretty good right now.
By the way, now we understand where your energy comes from. Before the show.
I'm actually getting ready to go camping here. I'm gonna have to stop by Sonic on the way out and grab me a blue raspberry cream slush with nerds, man.
Hang out with the Grizzlies.
Well, Dan, dude, this was awesome, bro. Thank you for taking some time from the operating table to come in and drop some fire for us, dude. I appreciate it. Any last comments or anything like that anybody should know before we part? Anything that you would love everybody to know? Any big transformation or aha moments over the last couple months, or anything that stands out? You're like, man, you know what? Here's one thing that I wish that I think everybody should know, or something I wish I would have known sooner, or advice you would give yourself 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think that the connections you make with people not only make you more successful, it's what makes this more like meaningful and worthwhile. And so the one thing I've really gotten of my last connections recently is that don't go into your connections or with people trying to think about how you're going to get something out of them. Like, oh, how's this person going to lend me money? Really try to connect with the individual and how can you serve them or how can you help them? Because your life will be filled with just much more meaning and happiness and purpose that way. And I'm pretty sure you'll also make more money that way. And even if you were to make more money the other way of just being a salesperson, I don't think that's going to make you feel fulfilled in the future. But really build those connections with people, because that's what makes life worthwhile. That's what makes business exciting. That's what makes everything worth doing.
I agree, brother. Thank you. Dan, I love you, bro. I appreciate it. I'm very grateful for your friendship. I hope you have an awesome day. Have a great weekend. Should we watch Dan's video again real quick before we part?
One more time.
Okay, one more time.
I'm breaking. Will the real Dan please stand up? We're going to have a problem here.
Hold on to your seats, let's turn up the gauge with a guest whose talents are truly elite. From stitching up patrons from day to day to turning deals in a major way. He's a doc with a knack for the real estate track. He's here to show you how he's never ever looking back. Meet Dan, a man with a plan to swap his scrubs for deeds in hand. In the world of buy and hold, he's bold, jumping out of the W2 mold. So give it up, let's make some noise for the position who's turning more than just his toys. Meet Dan.
Will the real Dan please stand up?
I'm telling you, man, if this real estate thing doesn't work out, all over Alaska.
Well, you guys saw it here first. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in on another episode of Thank Growth. It's Friday. Love you guys. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Thank you again, Dan.
Take care, guys.